So it's pretty clear that the Portland Trailblazers had a terrible season. They finished at the 13th seed in the Western Conference. They had their first season in a really long time where they didn't even make the playoffs. And obviously, at the NBA trade deadline, they made the big trade of getting rid of a lot of their best players, such as CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, and Norman Powell. But even though the Blazers are not a good team right now, in the last few games of the season where they were mainly just playing a bunch of young guys, showed me that this is a team with a lot of young talent, because a lot of those guys weren't getting minutes before, and this is a team that can potentially be good in the future. So that's led me to make this video where I'll just be talking about the Blazers young players and how good I think they can be. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to go with 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. Cannot start a video off talking about the Blazers young talent without talking about Anthony Simmons first, who this season proved that he's capable of being one of the better guards in the league. I think in previous years we all saw the potential with Simmons, but we realized it was going to be really hard for him to reach that potential that he had when he's playing behind one of the best backcourts in the league in Lillard and McCollum. But now this season he finally got the opportunity to be starting and to be free. He's definitely gone crazy with that opportunity, as he's been averaging 17 points and 4 assists, shooting a crazy 40% from the three. But that doesn't even show the full story, because in the 30 games he started this season, which is a pretty solid sample size, he's been averaging 22 points, 5 assists, shooting over 45% from the field and 41% from three. This is a guy who I think will be a top 10 point guard in the league as soon as next year, if he's still given the freedom in the offense. He's a guy who I think can be one of the best scoring guards in the league. He also has a solid all-around game, as he's a solid passer. I don't think he's going to be one of the best passers in the league or anything, but averaging 5 or 6 assists as a point guard is solid. Also solid on the defensive side of the floor. I truly believe this guy has superstar potential. I think he's going to be this franchise's cornerstone whenever Damian Lillard leaves. He's an elite three-point shooter at his young age. He's already a solid mid-range shooter, has a nice floater game, really good when it comes to his finishing, really crafty. There's not much he can't do on the offensive side of the floor. He's definitely underrated because guys like Jordan Poole get way more hype than him, and I honestly think Simmons is better. The next guy I'm going to talk about isn't really considered a young player in the NBA, but he's still kind of young and he's been showing out, and that guy is Josh Hart, who they got in the CJ McCollum trade. Ever since coming to Portland, Josh Hart has looked like a completely different player. In the 13 games in Portland, he's been averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 50% from the field and 37% from three. To be honest, I didn't really expect Josh Hart, or I don't really expect Josh Hart to put those type of numbers over the course of a whole regular season, but it is pretty clear that he's taking a step in his game, and I think he's going to prove to be one of the best role players in the league. He already was one of the best role players in the league on the Pelicans. I think he's just going to be better from now on. I don't think he's a player they're going to want to trade, because it's not like he's an old veteran. It's not like he's 33 years old. He's only 26 years old, so he's a guy who could fit well with this young core. He's also a player that every team in the league will want to have, a really good defender who can shoot the ball well, who can play make, who hustles for rebounds and can occasionally create his own shot. Literally the perfect type of role player. I think he's going to do really well in Portland's Portland's future. I really hope they don't trade him. Next guy I'm going to talk about is that a guy who literally no one will know unless you're a Blazers or a Spurs fan, and that guy is Drew Eubanks. Before he was on the Spurs, then he got traded to the Raptors. The Raptors waived him, and then he signed to the Blazers. He's been really solid in the games he's played with them. He started to look like a solid center in the league. He's played 22 games with the Blazers, which is a solid sample size, and he's been averaging 14 points, 8 rebounds, shooting a really impressive 64% from the field. He's a guy who I think could be a really good starting center in the league, because he's a really solid defensive center who's more versatile than most centers in the league. He's not a great one-on-one defender because he's only 6'9", and his lack of length allows him to be scored on easily one-on-one. But I think he could be a really, really good backup center and a solid starting center. He's also only 22 years old, so he has time to improve. I think he'd be a solid player for them in the future, and that was just a really good signing by him because he actually has a lot of talent. Next, I want to talk about Keon Johnson, who they got in that Clippers trade where they got rid of Powell and Covington. Keon Johnson basically got no type of minutes on the Clippers, and on the Blazers he has received a chance, and he's actually shown some positive signs. Coming to the NBA, we all knew he was going to be a player who struggled to score on the offensive side of the floor, and on the Blazers he's been doing just that, shooting a 36% from the field and only averaging like 10 points, but at least his three-point shot has shown some promise as he's shooting 36% from 3-on-4 attempts, and if he could just continue to be a solid defender, I think he could be a really good 3-and-D player going into the future. Also, I should say his defense has looked really promising. And the last guy I want to talk about is Nassir Little, who's a guy who a lot of people gave up on early in his career, but this year he was actually given a chance for the first time and he really capitalized on it. I could really tell this guy improved his skills a lot because when he came into the league, he was a guy who could barely dribble the ball. He was a horrible three-point shooter who had no confidence in his shot at all, but this year I saw him doing all types of dribble moves and occasionally hitting like off the dribble shots. He averaged 10 points and 5 rebounds, shooting 46% from the field. He also was a really good defender as he's versatile. He can guard the perimeter and he's also a good help defender. I honestly think he's a guy with like starter potential, but I don't think he's going to reach that potential for like the next few years. I think he's going to be a guy who needs time to develop, but honestly what he showed this year was impressive. I could tell he was putting in a lot of work. He hasn't even been playing the last few months, and I think we would have really seen him seen his full skill set because now they didn't have McCollum and Lillard, so he definitely would have done better to end the year if he didn't got injured. But regardless, I think he's going to be a really good player in the future who maybe even has star potential. Actually, I was wrong. That's not the last guy, but this guy's the last guy for sure. This guy's not really known by a lot of NBA fans, but I saw him in a few Blazers games. This guy actually looks really nice. The guy's Brandon Williams. He played 23 games for the Blazers, although he was really inefficient as he shot below 35% from the field. He did average 13 points, and he showed skills that I think can make him a really solid player going into the future. When you just watch what he was actually doing on the court, he was a solid finisher, a guy who could blow by a lot of guards, attacks the rim really well, and can occasionally hit some difficult shots. I don't know if he has star potential. We have to see more of him, but he's only 22 years old. He's shown this much skill. Definitely shows that he could be a really good player in the league going into the future. But to conclude the video, the Blazers have a lot of intriguing young players who most NBA fans probably have never heard of. I think they low-key have a lot of young talent on their team, and this isn't even including the young talent they should hopefully get when they trade Damian Lillard away. The Blazers' future isn't as dim as it looked previously, and you have to give their front office a lot of credit because they could have just been there depressed with like no young talent, but they actually went out and traded for guys and signed guys who have potential, and that's just really impressive. So maybe the Blazers organization isn't as bad as most people were thinking. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Blazers have a bright future. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to remember over 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.